Hey guys. Okay, I've got a bit of a different video for you today. Um I was working and I had to get this out here. It's coming up to I should probably say, by the way, if you're squeamish, I'm going to be talking quite candidly about miscarriage and physically what happened to me when I miscarried, so you might want to mosey on and watch something else. But anyway, right, so it's coming up to the anniversary of what would have been our second child. I'm gonna go. Right, okay, I'm gonna try and do this, and excuse my hair, by the way, I'm in the middle of dying and I had to get this out. Okay, it's coming up to what would have been the anniversary of our second child's due date, and it was right around Christmas, and Christmas has always been it's been hard ever since. My husband doesn't really know, I guess, how hard it is for me, because I don't want to ruin Christmas. But anyway, right, let's just start at the beginning. All of our children were planned, very, very much planned. It took us quite a while to conceive Poppy, and whenever she turned 1, we'd always talked about trying for number 2 when she turned 1. So her birthday came around in February. We decided to start trying. We got pregnant pretty much straight away, and we had what's called a chemical pregnancy. So it's a very, 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 very early miscarriage. In fact, a lot of them, the ladies who have them, don't even realise that they're pregnant in the first place, because they just assume it's a slightly late period. So we had one of those. It was hard, but you know, carried on, kept going. And then we got pregnant again. This time, I still remember Barry lying on the bed and Poppy was in the bathroom, and I ran upstairs to show him the pregnancy test. I'd done the test. I wasn't even due to come on my period yet. I did the test because my main symptom through all my pregnancies in the very early days was extreme fatigue. And I remember sitting at the kitchen table, they were upstairs, and I literally, I couldn't keep my head up. I was so tired. So I ran upstairs, did the pregnancy test. I was like, Barry, look, like super pregnant. Sorry about that. Okay, so we were so excited. We were pregnant. Everything was fine. I was a bit nauseous in the early days. Whenever I got to 10 weeks, sorry, this is really hard for me. Whenever I got to 10 weeks, what are you doing, dog? Sorry, I'm going to take a break. Okay, so, composed. I got to 10 weeks and everything was still fine. And then one Sunday morning, I woke up and I had a little bit of spotting, so I had a little bit of blood come away, and I knew it was normal for some ladies, for a lot of ladies, so I didn't worry too much. And then later on that day, I started to get a bit of cramping. Doggy. Sorry, I popped once up. And I started to get the feeling that something wasn't right. The next day, I woke up and it was a bloodbath. It was a bloodbath. I was covered and I completely just broke down. I phoned the early pregnancy unit in the hospital and they said to come in. But I think it was a bank holiday that day. It was a Monday, it was a bank holiday, and they didn't have enough staff to see me. And they said you could come down, but you might not see anyone, or you might be waiting hours and hours. I'm in a lot of pain, I'm bleeding, I'm completely panicking. and no one could see me. So that night, I was still bleeding through the course of the day. That night, I'll never forget it. That night, I will never forget this as long as I live. I was sitting on the toilet and Barry was kneeling in front of me. And he just had his hands on my legs, and I was just clenching everything because I knew that if I relaxed my muscles, it would just all come out. And I knew that there was no other choice. It was going to happen at some point. It had to happen. And it just felt, whenever it happened, it just felt horrible. It was the worst, physically, the worst feeling I've ever had in my whole life, and I probably will ever have, and I'll never forget the sensation of it all coming away. And he had a face cloth and he was soaking it in water and just kept passing it to me so I could just continue to try and clean myself up. So I went down to the early pregnancy unit the next day. So I know I didn't. I went to accident and emergency, and I knew it was over. I knew it was over. I mean, it was just really getting confirmation. So I went down the next day and I sat and waited. And again, they said, look, we have no one really who can see you. We can make an appointment for you tomorrow. So I had no choice. I went home and I got into bed, and I was physically and mentally drained by this point. And I remember my mum came down to our house and just got into bed with me and just gave me a cuddle. So the next day she took me to the hospital because Barry had to go to work. And they gave me an internal scan, which again was just horrible. If you've not had one, or if you don't know what one is, it's basically a probe like this long with the scanner on the end. I think there's a condom on it. And they put it inside and they said, like, no, there's very little left. But it hadn't all come away. And I'll never forget what they said. They said, you can try again. And that was just the biggest slap. The dog's trying to break the house here. That was just the biggest slap in the face. I mean, somehow, because we can have another child, it means that this, we shouldn't be upset. We shouldn't mourn for this child that we could have had. It's just the worst possible thing you can say to someone who's had a miscarriage is, oh, you can try again, or it wasn't meant to be. I mean, that is just, I can't even put into words how soul destroying it is. You feel guilty because, you add that onto all the normal feelings. You feel guilty because you think, was it something I did? You feel guilty because you already personally I feel guilty because I already had a child, and I felt that I was not being the mum that I should be because I was still mourning this loss. I felt that it's layer upon layer upon layer of emotions, and your head spins because there's so much going on. And it's the hardest thing. And then, a lot of men have trouble expressing their feelings, so it could seem like they couldn't care less, but in fact they're just doing what men do. If you're with a man, they're just doing what men do, and carry on, try and just keep going. And I don't know, it's hard. I have such an easy time expressing how I feel most of the time. It's hard for me to understand someone who can't do that, who can't really connect with what they're feeling and put it into words. And then as well, we had planned, I was going to be, I think, 18 weeks on our wedding day, and we had planned to announce that during the speeches. So again, on our wedding day, that was just I mean, it was a fantastic day and we had a brilliant time and couldn't have asked for a better day, but there was just that underneath the surface bubbling away. It was like, I should be pregnant right now. Like, we should be having a double celebration. We should be announcing this to all our family and friends who are here together. And we couldn't do it. And then on top of all this, I still had a piece inside that just wasn't coming away. So 4 weeks later, 5 weeks later, I was still getting positive pregnancy tests, and I could not get closure until I knew. I mean, I knew I wasn't pregnant anymore. It's not a logical thing. All these emotions aren't logical. I knew I wasn't pregnant anymore, but until I got that negative pregnancy test, I couldn't accept it and begin to start and move on. And it's, you know, and then as well, you feel guilty because there are women who go to full term and then have stillborn babies. There are women who lose their kids at 20 weeks and then have to go through labour knowing they're not going to get a baby at the end of it. And it's like, you know, you never saw this child on a scan. You know, you never felt the kicks. You never really got to completely bond with this child. But yet you can't help feeling this incredible sense of loss because you have lost a child. You have. And it shouldn't happen to anyone. But it does. I think it's 1 in 3 pregnancies ends in miscarriage. And I've been that 1 in 3, and it fucking sucks. It sucks. I guess I just had to get that out. Yeah. Okay, so that's my story. If you made it through this, I'll be very impressed. Merry Christmas!